Welcome, everybody, to the Spehar Initiative, the podcast that has you answering questions that really you don't want to come face to face with. And it is a lot of fun doing these kind of podcasts because you get to the root of a lot of issues that we don't want to come face to face with. And I know there's a lot of people out there that have dealt with a lot of things that they're afraid to come, they want to confront that, right? So we are here to bring that stuff to the forefront and help you overcome those fears, overcome those issues, so you can move forward and level up in your life. And today, here to help me is a power couple out west. Just to let you know, I'm in Canada, out east in Ontario. This couple is out west. I'll let them fill you in on where exactly they are. Welcome to the show, Grace, Jewell, and Sunny. What's going on? How you guys doing?
Doing amazing. Thanks for having us, Rob.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Been really looking forward to this. Sunny even decided to skip his nap today just so he could be a part of the show.
Everybody wants to be on the show. I ask all the important questions, and he's no different. Hey, bud, what's up? Oh, look, those eyes, inquisitive eyes.
Yeah.
Pure, innocent, untouched. Guys, thanks for joining me on this. And I want to put you in the spotlight today. I want to ask you some questions that are going to be about yourselves, stuff that you've dealt with, what you're doing with Sunny when it comes to education, and how you can help others. Okay, so first off, I want to find out more about you two. Where are you from?
So right now we are located in Central California, USA, in a town called Bakersfield. I've been here my whole life. Grace lived here for most of her life. But yeah, Bakersfield, some people call it the armpit of California. A lot of people are known for leaving Bakersfield and always coming back.
It gets a bad rap, but
it's really a good place to live. Yeah. It's a good place to raise a family, especially with some of the craziness going on in California. Bakersfield's definitely been a better place to be in regards to like Los Angeles, San Francisco, etc.
Yeah. We're gonna get into those issues a little bit later on over here. I got a nice list going over here to ask you, so just
okay.
Just to forewarn you. But yeah, California has this distinction of being, sunny, warm, glamorous, and all that, right? So it's interesting that you brought that up. So like I said, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But first, I want to dig deep right now. Okay, get right into it. I'm not going to tippy toe around there anymore. I want to ask you, what makes you get up every day? Well, how would you define your purpose?
Well, I'll start with this one because getting up has always been a big point for me. In school, it was always like, come on, Jewell, you're going to be late. You're going to be late. Mom comes in, brother comes in, other brother comes in. They're getting me out. And then, time for it was always a point of getting me up and out of bed. Mm-hmm. And I found more and more and more over this last year, it's been easier to get up. And that's because I have found purpose now. Grand purpose, what I want to achieve in my life is leaving the world a place that's best for everyone. Right, where everybody has equal rights, where everybody has their basic needs met, like food, shelter, but also a equal education as well, right? Because we talk about it a lot, having a son. When our lives come to an end, we want to look and say, wow, we did something to leave the world a better place for our kids to grow up in. Or do we want to hope that somebody does it for them when we're gone? And so that's what gets me up every single day, is knowing that I have a lot of work to do. So that's for me.
Yeah, what gets me up is obviously my son. I need to get up and take care of him, but also just like the excitement of like, what can I get done today? How can I improve our life today? How can I grow today? Because having Techno Tutor, it's like we're learning every day. So just, it's honestly, I'm at a point where it's exciting to me. Like, what am I going to learn today? And, how are we going to grow? Because there's things that we face every day, sometimes that are unexpected. And we're at a time where, like, we're constantly growing. Oh, buddy.
You brought up Techno Tutor, and we're gonna get into that in a little bit. I had a question for Grace, so I'm gonna have to wait till she comes back.
Right here.
I'm right here.
No, it's all okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, the timing is impeccable on that.
Yeah.
It's like,
Here, I'm gonna help him. You can ask her a question. I'll be right here.
okay, yeah, no problem. So Jewell talked about it at the beginning there, how there's a lot of issues that are happening in like out west in California. So you look at inflation and increasing homelessness and like the education system.
Mm-hmm.
So right now the big homelessness issue is happening, and how do you think that has a toll on one's mental health when looking at it as on a grand scale, not just one issue, but looking at it, all of it? How does one deal or navigate through these kind of things?
Like a homeless person, or
Everything, like, so homelessness, inflation, food, hunger, lack of education. A lot of that, you think about that a lot, and there's a lot of people who are thinking that on a daily basis, and it takes a mental, oh, what can I do? I can't do this alone. I don't know where to turn to. You have Tech and Tutor, you have the support. How would you deal with that yourself?
I would deal with like homelessness and those bigger problems. I think it all starts at home, like where people are raised and
Yep.
how they're educated from the beginning, like just the things that they're exposed to in their homes, or the way that their parents treat them, the values that they're being taught from a very young age, or the things that they're not being taught, or the environments that they are being put into that are harmful or whatever. I think that's what eventually would lead to someone maybe being homeless or something like that. Like a lot of times people are like, oh, they're mentally ill people, and a lot of them are, but people aren't just born as little babies that way. It's like it
True.
happens as they're exposed to things. And so I would think just starting at home, and educating everyone and treating all those people equally, not discriminating against homeless people, or yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to judge anybody, because all judgment is self-judgment as well, right? And the reason I asked that question is because we are cut from the same cloth when it comes to education and what we're trying to do, the mission that we're trying to accomplish. And I've spoken to many people about these kind of issues, and the common answer that I get from them, not an answer, because I didn't ask the question, but more common response I get from the people are, I don't know what to do. How do we change this kind of a thing? Like, where do we start? And you got to start looking at yourself first, right? Inward change has the outward effect as well, right? So, staying with you, Grace, issue with transgenderism and inclusiveness is like at the forefront right now. And I don't know if it is as important in the States as it is in Canada, but in Canada, it's like everywhere you turn, you're seeing this topic coming up. Now, many want clarity on a certain issue, and that is, what is a woman? And Matt Walsh, and a lot of people don't know who he is, Google him. He's got a good following, and he released a documentary last year called "What Is a Woman." I think it's on Rumble. You can check it out. And a lot of people could not actually answer that question. So you, Grace, as a woman, 2 questions. What is a woman? How would you yourself define a woman?
I would define a woman as a female with female reproductive organs. That's it.
So hearing these kind of questions as a woman, how does that Like, what comes across your mind when you hear these kind of questions and people actually defending that men can actually breastfeed?
I personally, I think it's kind of silly. Like, I see where the world is at, and it's like we have such bigger issues that we could be talking about, you know, or looking for a solution for, and yet like majority of the world of, at least in the United States, majority of everyone is focused on this question, what is a woman? That is like, it's just a fact what a woman is. And it's, to me, it's kind of sad also, like to see the confusion that it's creating with a lot of young children and stuff.
And just to your point, what you said earlier, it all begins in the home.
Mm-hmm.
It all begins at home. If the child does not get that education at home, you are abdicating responsibility and giving your child to somebody else who they feel is doing what's best for your child. So, Jewell, how do you support Grace through all this?
Well, the number one thing I can do to support Grace is put our family in a position where she can stay home with Sunny. Um, we're both really young when we got pregnant and moved in together. Like, we didn't do things traditional by any standards, and we were constantly encouraged to leave our son with babysitters. Let us watch him. We need a relationship. All these different points. You need time alone. You're going to lose yourself in parenting. And the most beneficial thing that we have found in our year and a half of being parents is Grace being with Sunny all the time is the best thing for him. It's hilarious to me. When Grace was pregnant, I had to convince her and convince her and convince her, you shouldn't go back to work. You shouldn't go back to work. You shouldn't go back to work. And it was like, well, maybe my mom could walk. And it was this back and forth conversation. And there was one day where she came to me after she put in her notice to go on maternity leave. And she comes to me and she's like, I don't want to go back to work. And I remember it was just like, oh, okay, like someone's going to be here with our son, directing him, who I know has his actual best interest in mind. And so for me, the way I can support Sunny best is to support Grace to be at home with Sunny all the time.
So, with everything that's going on around this world, are there any fears that's coming up for you as fairly new parents? Anything that's coming up for you inside, seeing how everything is unfolding in front of your eyes?
I'd be lying to say I don't have any fears. As much as I see some of these fears are irrational and I can do something about them, they still do come up. Um, the biggest one for me would be mandatory public school. If we had to put our kid in some sort of academic establishment where he had to be away from us every day. I've heard, I don't know if it's true, but in Germany you can't do homeschooling from what I've heard, and that to me, that is a fear of mine, that they would come to California and say, no, you have to put your kids in school so we can make sure that they are getting an inclusive education. Because I went through school, I've worked at schools, and I can see how many problems there are and why we live in the world we live in. A huge issue is because of what's happening at schools. And we're choosing to homeschool Sunny because, like I said, like him being at home with Grace is the best thing for him. So, like, for me, the fear isn't that it's going to come into our house, because I know where I stand as a man, and that I will direct and protect my family however I need to. And I know Grace is on the same page as me. But my fear is more so that someone will try and force me to put my kid in some sort of indoctrination establishment, something like that.
Mm-hmm. So how do you overcome the fears that come up within you?
Well, the biggest one is stopping and breathing. That big.
Mm-hmm. That helps a ton.
Mhm. You know, it's like as fast as the world is moving right now, sometimes the best way we can support ourselves is just slow down for a second. And you know, I, I know you're aware of the self-forgiveness writing process, using techno tutor to process our emotions more. So that's how I process my fears. You know, I face it head on. Okay, what's the issue here? And then I find out, where is this actually coming from, and is this my thought, or was this given to me by someone else? You know, like, is this a rational fear, or is this a program that 99% of people are running right now? And more often than not, you find that those fears that you have, it's like you can almost quote it verbatim from someone else, someone saying it in the news and movies, one of your friends or family members, something like that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that are coming out of us that we don't realize. It's coming out unconsciously, just like you say. It's being imprinted everywhere we go. You go in public, you see your billboards, you see signs, you go to a park bench or bus bench or bus itself.
Can I tell you about some of the billboards we have in town?
Shoot, what you
The
got?
one that I noticed the most is, it's a big, it's got a white background and it's got the peach emojis all over it. And it says, "Nobody raps about small butts. Get a bootyful butt lift." And we have like 7 or 8 of those billboards around town, and I see them all the time. The other billboards are about lip injections, about Botox, they're about marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like all these, it just really makes me stop and think. I'm like, people don't actually care about anything other than getting ahead. They don't care about what they're imprinting children with, because as much as we do our best to direct our son, when we go out in public, he's going to see, "Nobody raps about small butts." I can't hide that huge billboard from him. And
No,
whoever's putting these up, they obviously don't have children's best interest in mind. You know, it's apparent.
and even if you don't care about that billboard, I don't care who you are, it is getting inside of your mind. You can look at it and be like, that's not a big deal. But you're gonna be like, later on in the day, it'll just go like poof, it'll pop in your head like, yeah, I remember seeing that. And then you get into a conversation. That's how that works. When we went to we were in Germany actually earlier on this year, and I was walking downtown and I see this big billboard. It was not like up in on the buildings or anything. It was just like down an alleyway, and it's like eye level, right? Huge, it's like 9 by 12 feet, massive woman in a bra, standing there smiling, holding in each hand breast implants. Now it was in Swiss. We were in Switzerland actually at the time. It was in Swiss, so I didn't know what it said, but I found out after what it was, and it was basically saying, "Summer's coming. Are you ready?"
Crazy.
I couldn't believe that, and I had my girls with me, and they were looking at it, and they were asking, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, don't worry about that for now." But I didn't leave it at that. We explained afterwards what that was and educate them on this kind of a thing, so they're not like, "Oh, curious about what that is," and they're constantly thinking about it. No, we as parents have the responsibility to educate our child, to let them know what is going on, what is best, and move on from there, right?
Yeah.
So
Touch on
now,
that real quick before you go into the next question.
cutting me off, dude.
Yeah, I am. I am. Because it made me. You brought up a point for me that really stuck out to me, that I noticed as I become a parent, which was the Disney movies. I think it was the Buzz Lightyear one. They had a woman kissing another woman in the movie, and I remember these parents were really frustrated with Disney because they were saying, "I didn't want to have this conversation with my kid. How am I supposed to explain that to them?" And it's that point right there. They don't know how to explain that to their kids. Parents aren't even educated on these different points. So then their kids are being impulsed and they don't even know how to explain it to their kids. So then it just becomes this point of thinking, 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 that impulsing, that not really in the front of your mind, but every now and then it pops up like, "Well, why were those two ladies kissing? Like, how come my mom kisses my dad and not another one?" Like, it's just raising these different types of questions because parents aren't educated on the point either. And so I thought that was just a really interesting point, and I
Yeah.
wanted to share that. So sorry for cutting you off.
No, no. that's man, no, that's awesome. Any nuggets you can provide, man, that's bonus. It's awesome. And you're absolutely right. What does that say for the future generation? Like after I'm dead and gone, like I'm 47, so I've been around the sun a few times. After I'm dead and gone, what am I leaving for my kids and my kids' friends and their friends and so on? Like if I'm not helping these families with the knowledge that not just I have, the knowledge that you two have, if we're not helping other families with this, what are we doing? We're supporting the problem.
Yeah.
Every day that we don't help other parents see the issues that are actually happening right in front of them, they're right there. It's not like it's a conspiracy or wearing a tinfoil hat or anything like that. No, this shit's right in front of your face. This is the shit that you got to talk about. That's why I said at the top of the podcast, this is the stuff that you got to talk about. You have to come face to face with, because it's going to have you thinking. And when you think and investigate what is best, that's when you can move forward.
That's
what we have to do as parents.
It's really fascinating, because I was talking with my mom. It was just a couple weeks ago, specifically about the point of why we don't let Sunny watch movies, and specifically, like, definitely not Disney movies. And she's like, well, I don't get it. Like, they're such good movies. They're so cute. And I was like, Mom, how many healthy relationships between parents have you seen in Disney movies? You see one parent dead, two parents dead, parents getting split, one parent getting killed. In all of these movies, I think we found maybe one Disney movie that had one parent couple. But as I was telling her this, I could see the wheels turning, like, oh my gosh, because my mom got divorced. Her parents both got divorced multiple times. My mom, and then my dad's been divorced multiple. And it's just like, we have a 50% divorce rate, at least in the States. And it's that same point. It's right there. It is right there in front of our faces, but we don't think about it because we're not taught to question these kinds of things. So yeah, so some of your viewers might not notice that about the Disney movies. Check it out.
You ever wonder why that is? Why not just Disney movies, but other movies as well, where they kill off one of the parents right at the beginning of the movie. They say it's setting up the character for the rest of the movie. But when you watch those kind of things, what comes up in people's minds?
It makes you emotional. Like,
right.
I remember watching Lion King and being devastated at Mufasa, I think his name. I haven't watched it in so long, but just being devastated watching him get trampled and seeing his son lying there alone. And it's like,
watching that happen, mind you.
Yeah, what would I do if my dad died? Wow, I don't. And then it's like, now I'm thinking about living life without my dad, and now I'm thinking, and it's just like creating this whole fear point in kids unnecessarily. It's purely just to elicit emotion, and they do an excellent job of it, I will say.
Yeah, if you can, I grew up with Disney as well, and I'm trying to go through my mind. I'm sure it's going to come to me afterward, but I can't think of one movie. I actually can think of one where the parents and the family dynamic is intact. Mm-hmm. Where you have the mom and you have the dad and you have the kids there. And the only one that can come to mind is 101 Dalmatians, I think.
Oh, between
one that can come to mind where there's both parents there, because the main focus are the dogs. Yeah. But then again, probably the dogs.
It's the separation between the dogs and the kids throughout the whole movie. Yeah. That's the whole point, is to separate the parents from their children.
Yeah, see, there's that underlying message there. So there's a lot there. But we can. This is a whole other podcast episode.
Whole other podcast, yeah.
But that's good though. You gave me some ideas. But moving on, we talked about TechnoTutor, and yes. TechnoTutor is something that we have been involved in for a while. When I say involved in, that might not be the best words to use. Vocabulary. It is a vocabulary builder. It improves your vocabulary. It takes your thinking into the knowing. And you use it with Sunny. We use it with our girls as well, and we are seeing the benefits. But I want to ask you, how did you get into TechnoTutor, and how long have you been using it for?
So, to answer your first question, how did we get into TechnoTutor? So I have a good friend named Austin Hale. I'm not sure if you've had him on here. I don't think so yet.
Oh, he's on the list.
So funny story about Austin and Giselle met. Austin and his wife Giselle met at an event me and my brother threw years ago for some other thing we were doing. And fast forward a couple years, I was at the gym and I saw Austin and his wife Giselle, and she was pregnant. And it was like, oh, that's so cool. And then a couple months later, Grace got pregnant. It's like, oh, that's so exciting. And then Austin and Giselle were about to move to Ohio from California to Ohio, so across the country, 35-hour drive. And before they left, they just came over and they were just talking to us. And we were having real conversation, getting into the topics, talking about how there is a best way to raise kids. You know, like everybody's got their methods, but there is an actual best way to raise kids. And that really piqued my interest because I was working at a middle school at the time. And my belief system at the time was my son's got to go to school the way and learn the hard lessons I had to learn, the way I had to learn them. And then I started working at a school and I started getting less and less confident in that ideology, being in that environment every day and seeing what the kids do to each other and the way the staff members treat them. And then they were like, well, we're going to homeschool our daughter. And I was like, oh, that doesn't sound too bad. He's like, yeah, we have this really cool program called Techno Tutor. We're going to homeschool, but like also it'll help you like process your emotions and, you know, take you for the Kevin Trudeau fans, from unconscious incompetence to unconscious competence much faster, right? So there's the 4 levels of learning. You can get into that if you want. Mm-hmm. And so I remember they came over twice. We did dinner and breakfast respectively. And as they were leaving the second day, I'm like, hey, like we need this. This is exactly, you know, we've done the meditations, we've done the affirmations, we've done the yoga, like we've done all this stuff and we're still not where we want to be emotionally, in terms of emotional stability, financially, all these different points. And when they were talking to us, it was like, this is everything that we've been looking for put into one. And it's, you know, it's actually absolutely hit the mark.
Awesome. So what changes have you seen in yourself? So Grace, I'll ask you, like, what have you noticed since you started using this?
I've noticed a lot within myself. For one, just like becoming so much more aware of all my programs, all my fears, like all the stuff that I just downloaded from my parents, and specifically like how that comes out in me being a mother to Sunny. Because there was things in the beginning when he was a newborn where I would just like say, like, call him a stinker for like rolling over when I'm changing his diaper, and I'm just like, what's behind me saying that to him? And it's like, my mom would always say that to me, and what's the starting point of me saying that? So just things like that. And then also being able to communicate how I'm feeling, or just anything, so much better with Jewell and with everyone. And by being able to communicate so much better, my confidence has just shot through the roof compared to before we had Techno Tutor. So it's been really, really, really supportive for our family.
Awesome. Jewell, what about you? What changes have you seen in your life?
The biggest change for me would be, like I said earlier, like being able to slow down and see my thoughts for what they are. A lot of people who know me now don't know who I was made to be through the early years of my life, which was a very angry, very violent, very aggressive, abusive person, right? You hear when someone is abused, they become an abuser. And that is absolutely what I was. And I just suppressed that point. I suppressed it with a great smile, with a bubbly personality. Everyone thought I was super nice and outgoing. And then, you know, the people who got close to me, I would share with them. I'd be like, no, this is not, like, I'm a very mean person. You know, I was a huge bully in school and I didn't realize it till years later. But coming into starting to use Techno Tutor every day, what I noticed is I didn't have to suppress those points anymore. I was able to express myself in a way that wasn't abusive to the people around me, because I could see my thoughts for what they were. I have this jaw clench when I would get really mad, and like you can see like the jaws like just squeezing my teeth together. And I'm like, oh, that's my dad. That's not me. Like that's not even me doing that. That's me seeing as a kid when my dad gets really angry, he clenches his jaw and suppresses his emotion, and then has violent outbursts when it's suppressed for too long. And it's like using this for over a year and a half now, it's like that doesn't happen anymore. I don't have these violent outbursts. I don't have this need to suppress all my everything that's coming up for me. Like the point of stability for me has just been tremendous, because like in my life when I look back, we didn't have, yes, we lived in a house, both my parents were there for the early years, but like we didn't live in a stable household. Like my mom, it's like I love my mom, but she was a very emotionally manipulative person. My dad was a very angry, physically abusive person. And when I talk to them about these things, it's like they are just suppressing it now, and I can see that. And so, like, being able to process all of these different points that I was programmed with as a kid, that I just picked up from my parents and my environment and the things they let me be impulsed by, like, I have more stability than I have ever had in my entire life. Like, when I had, like, there was a point in personal development where I was just like, I had everything that I was manifesting, right? Like, I had the money that I wanted, like I had a relationship that I wanted, I had the free time that I wanted, but I felt freaking miserable. Every single day I was just miserable, 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 and I never understood why. And using Techno Tutor for just a couple of months in the beginning, I was like, oh, there's so much that I've just suppressed, and that's why I'm so miserable, because I've never dealt with any of this stuff. I've accepted it and moved on, but that's just bullshit. Sorry, like I don't know how you feel about cussing on here.
It's all good.
Okay, yeah, it's just bullshit. Like accepting it and move on. What does that actually mean? Like, what does it actually mean to accept something and move on? Like, my dad spanked us a lot as kids. I was beaten, my brothers were beaten, and that left a huge impact on me. But I accepted it and moved on. Like I forgave. It's like, what did I actually do? I just said one day in my head, I'm like, yeah, I got beat in the past, but I'm not getting beat anymore. That what accepting it and moving on means? Like, no, it means not allowing these things that have happened to you affect your decision making process today. Right? Like, a good example of that. Am I going too deep here? Or is this good?
No, keep going.
Yeah, a good example, with one of my brothers, after we got involved with Techno Tutor, I was talking to them about like processing all these things that happened to us as kids. And I'm like, guys, like we don't have to just suppress this anymore. Like we can actually deal with it. We can like not just accept it and move on, but like actually resolve this internal turmoil that we're experiencing, and we can move out of it. And as I'm talking about that, I could see like it just wasn't clicking. And so then the conversation changed. And I was asking one of my brothers, I'm the youngest of four with two older brothers. And I was trying to encourage him to start a business because he's mentioned it a lot in the past. And like I've got a very entrepreneurial mindset and I want to like build a business. And so I was talking to him and encouraging him. And he's like, yeah, it's just like, I don't know. It's just too much risk. It's just too risky. And I'm like, well, you probably are afraid because you were beaten for making mistakes as a child. And he's like, oh, yeah, I know getting hit as a kid has something to do with why I'm so afraid of starting a business. But he still is making the decision to not take the risk. And that's what we're all doing unconsciously, is we're allowing these things that have happened to us impact the decisions that we're making now to not actually benefit our life, but to benefit the I guess I want to say avoid the punishment that we were trying to avoid whenever we experience whatever trauma. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So yeah, like being able to see through the lies I've told myself for so many years, like that has been an absolute game changer for me.
Now, with everything that you said, there's still a lot more to that. It's not just I've seen this, it took a lot for self-realization, for you to be self-honest with yourself, to understand and know that this is the shit that's coming up for me that I have to look at. You realize, oh, I'm doing this because of that. Oh, I'm doing this because of this. Like I've been reading a book called Iron John, a book for men. And I highly recommend it. I'm not completely done it yet, but I just finished a chapter about warriors. And in that one section, wish I had it with me, I'd read the passage on there. They talk about shame, how 30 seconds of shame can have a 30-year effect on a person, not even realizing it. Just like Grace, you said, you changing his diaper, calling him a stinker. That might not eat much to you, but to him, it's getting imprinted. And throughout our lives, as we get older, we start thinking of these things, and when we think of them unconsciously, we start suppressing, just like you were saying, Jewell, we're suppressing our true selves. So the warrior within us is essentially dying, and we are being a person that we aren't meant to be. So we are portraying a false image onto people. But when you bring this stuff up and come face to face with it, deal with it, forgive yourself for a lot of these things, that's when the true self comes out. For myself, I thought I never had a voice. I thought I was going to be made fun of for whenever I say anything, or I didn't want to speak because people are going to think I'm stupid or anything like something like that, because I've dealt with things in my past that, are, can be relatable to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to look at those issues and realize that's done. That's not me. I know my true me. Hence the podcast. Here we are. Here I am talking. Here I am asking questions and helping others. That's the whole purpose of this. So suppression is a big thing, and I think many of us in today's society are suppressing our feelings because fear of reprisal. Oh, you can't say there is only a male and a woman gender. That's it. There's nothing else. A lot of people are afraid because they're going to get canceled or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Stop. It's just it's laughable at this point. This kind of discussion, But I digress. We're moving away from the whole point of technotutor here. But now, seeing as you're here, Grace, you can answer this question first while Jewell recoups in the background. With everything that you know now, if you could go back in time and see yourself, what would you say to yourself?
I would say I would go, because when I was like an adolescent, I had some trauma happen to me. Like my dad passed away and I was in an abusive relationship, and that was like the hardest point in my life. And I think I would go back to that point and tell myself, like, look, this isn't gonna last forever. It's temporary, but the way that you respond to it is like what matters. And so don't make yourself a victim. Like, just change your thinking and yeah, just like take responsibility, I think, and choose, like take the responsibility to choose how you want the rest of your life to go.
Yeah. And you're doing technotutor, you're doing the self-forgiveness writing. Like, what else do you do that helps you get through a lot of these things as they come up for you? What are some other resources?
Yeah, I do my process and I do my writing. Like the writing has helped me a lot. And then just recently, like I actually started writing about like that time in my life, like actually writing out everything that happened to me, because I've done self-forgiveness on it and stuff, but like there was so much that happened, so it really helped me to like get it all out, and then coming to a point where I can talk about it and share with other people has been really, really supportive for me too, because I used to like not want to talk about it, not want to share it because I was embarrassed or I didn't want other people to feel bad for me. But again, that's just like a point of suppression. And so now being able to talk about it, and yeah, it's like kind of healing for me.
How do you feel talking about everything now on here?
I feel confident about it. Yeah.
Good answer. Good answer. So, Jewel, I don't know if you heard the question I asked her.
Didn't catch it. No.
So, with everything that you know now, and if you had the opportunity to go back in time and see your younger self, what would you say to you?
What would I say to my? I would tell myself to start doing techno tutor sooner. That's the given. But honestly, what I would go back as a young man, something that's really important to me is like the habits and the skills that I'm developing at this point in my life, because I've, like, I don't expect to have everything that I want to have in my 20s. Maybe my 30s, but 40s, 50s, 60s, like, we're there. And so I've got these decades to really build these habits and skills. And so I would go back and I would tell myself, like, to focus. I was always so caught up in porn and video games and hanging out with friends and smoking weed and drinking. Like, I was just chasing a high in all these different places, and I wasn't focused on creating anything at all. Like, I got really good at video games, but that's not a skill set that I can take to the real world and add value, you know? So I would go back and I would tell myself, hey, like, if as best as you can, cut out as many of your bad habits as possible, sleeping in, watching porn, smoking weed, playing video games, like, cut these habits out and start focusing on what you want to build and create in your life. With, obviously, I would go back to techno tutor, but that came into our life at a really great time.
So let's jump on the education point here. What do you think is the biggest issue with the education system today?
The biggest issue, for one, they're not giving kids a real education. They are, for lack of a better phrase, they're pushing an agenda. They have a, if you, I worked at a school, I worked in a middle school with seventh and eighth graders, boys and girls, in the public education system in the United States. And it is so obvious that the teachers have this much wiggle room to even teach what they want to teach. It's like, you have to follow this curriculum, you have to teach it this way, you have to follow these workbooks and give them these texts and read these books. It's like, there's absolutely zero space for creation anywhere in the public school system. Like, another big issue is lack of parent involvement, but I think the bigger issue is, like, they're not, it's obvious that they're trying to fit kids into a mold, right? I worked with a lot of teachers. I've worked with some teachers who were teachers for 40 years. I worked with some teachers who was their first year teaching. The teachers who were there for 40 years, I asked them because I was curious, like, you're an educator. How has education changed from when you were a student to when you became a teacher to now 40 years into your career? Like, what has changed? Lack of accountability has increased. The amount the disciplined children has decreased. And the curriculum hasn't changed at all. Curriculum hasn't changed at all. Okay. Maybe they teach a different way, maybe they use different methods, but they're still teaching the same things at the same time of the year. But now they're just teaching it as kids get older. Like, they're just lowering the standards for kids. Like, I know some kids using techno tutor who are able to do high levels of chemistry, mathematics, read at a high reading level, kids who shouldn't even be in school yet by their age, right? I was at an event and there was fourth, fifth, and sixth graders there, and I was asking them math questions, right? Now, Rob, you have kids.
Yeah.
How old do you think a kid should be to know the answer to the question 100 plus 100?
100 and plus what number?
100 plus 100.
any age, really. When you, if see, is that a fair question to ask me though? Because my point of view is different from somebody else's point of view.
Common sense to me says as soon as a kid can do 1 plus 1, they can do 10 plus 10, they can do 100 plus 100, right? So for me, I've been a tutor for 6 years, even before getting involved with Techno Tutor. Kids should, simple addition should be very simple for kids. It should be taught in kindergarten, first grade, second grade. Like when I was in second grade, we were doing times table, stuff like that, right? There was fifth and sixth graders at this event that I went to who could not do 100 plus 100. They could not do 10 plus 12. They couldn't do. They're like, give me a question because I had some toys, and I'm like, if you get the question right, you can have a toy. And they're like, all right, give me a question. I'm like, what can you do? Like multiplication. And I'm like, okay, what is 4 times 6? Oh no, I don't know my fours yet. I only know my ones, my twos, and my threes, and my tens. It's like, what? So you don't know multiplication. You memorize your timetable. Okay. Well, what about addition? Oh, I can do addition. Okay. What's 24 plus 30? Oh, no, I can't do double digit numbers yet. And I'm like, how old are you? Sixth grade. And it wasn't just one kid, it was multiple kids going to different schools. All the only similarity is they were all in the public school system. And it was just blowing my mind because you see some of these kids what they're doing with Techno Tutor. Like Arya just wrote a book, Max is doing chemistry. Like Wanillo is 1.5 and he knows almost all the 2-letter words in the English language. Like, and these kids can't do 2-digit addition in sixth grade. Sixth graders, by the way, are 10 to 12 years old. It's ridiculous. So there's no real education happening in the education system. They're pushing agendas, they're pushing ideologies, they're just teaching kids how to memorize and be fucking wonderful employees. And that's it.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. And piggyback what you're saying about the kids and what they're, the chemistry and, Max doing, making those circuits. And my kids, they're 10 and 7. They're wanting to start a business. They're selling bracelets. I don't know if you did you end up buying any bracelets in San Diego?
I did not end up
No.
buying them. No, they've came and found Grace, and then she came to find me. I didn't have any cash on me.
Well, they'll be in Texas.
We'll have to get one.
But yeah, like we are teaching them how, like, about money, teaching them how to, streamline, making bracelets. They're making them handmade, but at the same time, you got to increase your production, and teaching about rejection. Not everybody's going to say yes. These are life skills. These are skills that you're going to use in the real world. You're not going to learn that in school. Maybe you might, but at what point are you going to start learning that? I remember business when I was going to school back in the 90s. I don't know if you were born then. There you go. Back in the 90s when I was in high school, they didn't, offer business courses until like grade 10. Grade 10.
Can I tell you something?
Shoot.
There was no business courses in high school when I was going.
Wow.
There was 4 engineering classes. It was like a program, but there was only one you could take each year. And we had a forensics debate class and a government debate class. But there was no business. There was one business. They made a product and sold it for 1 semester, and that was it. That's the full extent of what business education was offered in my school. And that was one of the more prestigious public schools in our town.
Yeah, there you go. What does that say about the education system? And it's even worse now. Like since COVID, like, the numbers, I don't have the numbers with me, so I don't want to say too much when it comes to that, but I know the numbers have gone down when it comes to reading and math, where the ability to comprehend vocabulary is dropping at a rapid rate, which is not good. It is not good.
No. I can tell you my experience working at the school. Like I did the reading assessments for kids at schools. I tested the 7th and 8th graders. I tested almost the entire population of the school. Well, not me individually, but like I was doing the testing. I had 2 kids who could read at or above grade level. This was my second year working at the school. 2 kids. And out of those 2 kids, only one of them qualified for the standard of comprehension, and every other kid failed. And reading speed and spelling, vocabulary recognition, and comprehension. I had 2 kids, and I tested well over 50, 75 students. And it's just like, what the heck are these kids learning? I had kids making up words as they're reading in 7th grade. Like, they're just seeing a letter and then saying a word. Like, they're not even taught to read. It's mind boggling.
Remarkable. So that brings us to my next question. You're going to plan on homeschooling or home educating Sonny, right? So what are some of the benefits that you see from doing that? I see the benefits. I like to get it from you youngsters. I say youngsters because like I said, I'm 47 next week. I'm young. I'm a little bit, up there.
October, Dad?
October 10th, my man.
October 2nd.
That's right. I just saw the other day. Happy birthday. I know it's a little bit late, but happy birthday. Libra. Woo!
I'm gonna let her answer that question. What are the benefits of home education?
The benefits, I can go on and on. So, like specific peer.
Just wanted to say, like, your face lit up when you were talking about this now, which is awesome. I love seeing that.
Yeah. Specific peer groups. So, like, Sonny's not going to be influenced by, kids doing drugs or gossiping or all that stuff that happens
social
in school.
Media.
Like the parent relationship that we'll have, because I'm going to be teaching him, and also he'll have the ability to like be creative and look at things that he's interested in learning about, and not have to be restricted to sitting in a desk for 8 hours in a classroom and learning what somebody else wants him to learn. And with that, like the ability to go at his own pace and to stop and slow down if there's things he doesn't understand. Like, there's so many benefits. But those are the ones that really stick out for me, is like the peer groups and the parent relationship.
I would like to add something to that, because a big point, if you went to public school, Rob?
I went to Catholic school growing up.
Okay. Yeah. It's probably the same. Each school they have characters, right? There's like the character of the popular kid. There's the character of the mean popular girl. There's the character of, like, there's all these different characters the kid who sits in the back of the class. There's the class clown. There's the kid who sleeps. Like, there's all these different characters that you find. And it's funny because me and Grace went to schools in different towns, and we have the same characters at our school, right? Like, we have the kid who sells drugs and is a bad, mean kid and gets in trouble a lot, and then you have the kid who has like these tragic things happen. Like, there's all these things, and they happen at all of these schools. And so a huge benefit of not having your kid in school is they get to actually like self-realize. They get to become themselves. They don't become a character that fits into this narrow slot that's been created just because the freshmen know that the seniors go this way, and the seniors know they have to treat the freshmen this way, and then they turn them into the seniors 4 years later, and the cycle just perpetually recreates itself. Like, that's not going to happen here at home. Like, I'm not going to haze my son when he turns 14 because he's, you know what I mean? Like, there's just, so that to me is like a really huge benefit, is like, our son isn't going to fit into he's going to fit into peer groups, but he's not going to be a character in this hierarchy that's the education system.
Right.
And I saw it when I was working at the school too. I was like, oh, that kid reminds me of this person I went to school with. That kid acts just like this person. And it's these exact same characters. It's mind blowing if you actually, like, I mean, you're probably not going to be at a middle school anytime soon, but it was crazy to see it firsthand.
So here's a common question that a lot of, parents who are home educating their kids is, what about the social aspect? Are you worried at all that he's not going to be social with other children?
No. For context, every 2 weeks we host a self-perfected clubhouse in Bakersfield, along with Austin and Giselle. I mentioned them earlier. So we have a meetup that our son is in at every 2 weeks. We go to events multiple times a year, like big events. We went to San Diego together. There was over 150 people there. We take our son to the grocery store with us. Like, he's around people all the day. We go to vendor booths. We go to networking events. Like, we go together sometimes as families to have our son around more people, to have him in certain environments. And it's like he's around people all the time. Not all the time, literally, but like he's around groups of people multiple times a week. He's in a organized event every 2 weeks, and then an even organized event multiple times a year. Like, he's around people, he's around adults, he's around us. Like,
but the thing is, like, the people that he's around, the things we're talking about at our clubhouse, it's like your podcast. It's things that actually matter. And so it's like, I'm not worried about him socializing with, the general public of kids that are in public schools. And I'm glad that he's not going to be with those kids every single day, because it's like I said, what are those kids talking about? What are they interacting with? Like, it's all the things. All I learned from high school was bad. Everything it was all bad. Like, and I wouldn't want my son to be exposed to any of that.
That's it. There, like, everybody has this idea that, oh, socializing. Your son or my girls have to socialize with kids. They don't have to. You can sit down with my girls and they'll have a nice full-on conversation with you about whatever you bring up. If there's something you don't understand, they'll ask you questions about it. They're inquisitive. They want to know. They'll really talk your ear off about horses, but still, they have great conversations, and that's awesome. They have that passion with horses, so they'll educate you on that. So it's not just kids that our kids have to socialize with. It's like you said, Jewel, adults out in public, grocery store, wherever you go, they're going to be interacting with other people.
It's, we kind of hold this philosophy where when you're around people or you see someone and there's an opportunity to talk to them, we talk to them. I know that might sound crazy to some people. Like, sometimes we talk to strangers, Rob.
Like, we'll go out of our way to say hi.
Yeah.
Or, how's your day going?
Whoa, time out here. I got to put a disclaimer on this podcast now. We're promoting talking to strangers.
Yeah, we talk to strangers, and we introduce our son to strangers. Our son is 1 year old. He's not speaking sentences yet. But when I meet someone and I'm talking to them and he's there, I will also introduce him so that he doesn't develop this point of being shy as he grows older, where it's like, oh, no, I don't. When my dad's talking to someone, I don't talk to them. Or my mom's talking to someone, I don't talk to them. It's like, oh, hey, stranger, I'm Jewel. This is my son, Sonny. Sonny, this is this stranger we just met, or this is this person who comes to our house. Like, every time my parents come over, Sonny, do you remember my mom? This is your grandma, because that's my mom. Sonny, do you remember your granddad? This is my dad. Like, I'm your dad. I explain these things to him so that as he grows up and starts interacting with people more, he knows how to interact with people. Like, school didn't teach me how to interact with people at all. School taught me that sometimes people will be my friends when they're afraid of me. It taught me
they need something.
Yeah, or when they need, yeah. So that's not a concern of ours at all.
No, I wouldn't think so, but it is a concern for a lot of people out there. So we're getting near the end of this podcast. So I want to ask you a couple more questions about. I'd like to get your insight how you can help others now. I say things all the time, but I want you guys to share your insight. So people say they want to change, but actions speak louder than words, right? What would you say to people out there who are lacking that motivation and that desire to change?
Well, for one, I would ask them, because questions are extremely important. I would ask them, who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? Second question, do you want your life to be the average of those 5 people? And then the third question, have you heard of Self-Perfected? Self-Perfected is a great group. Like, it's really helped me step up and become a man. Like, I was not at all willing to be a man or make any kind of real commitments before being a part of Self-Perfected and meeting men who are stepping up for their families and standing up and standing out, like you, Rob, like Mitt, like Drake, like Mitt, like all these guys are really standing up and standing out and being leaders. And if you're a man, like, you need to be in Self-Perfected. You need to be a part of this group, have these conversations, ask these tough questions, like. And then for a woman, same thing. Like it's not, obviously don't be a man. I think we covered that already. But I would really inquire people to look at the people they spend their time with. Um, it's like make a menu for yourself. Who are the people you spend your time with? What are the things you're listening to? What are the things you're watching? What are the things you're buying? What are the things you're eating? Like, look at those things, and you'll have a really great idea of why you are where you are in your life. And then get around people who are doing the things you want to do, who are saying the things you want to hear, who are promoting the things you want to watch, who are eating the things you want to eat, and being, that kind of thing. That's what I would definitely tell people who are looking to make change. Like, find a community, and this is the place to be. This is the backbone of personal development.
So anybody who wants to begin home educating their children who are on the fence saying, yeah, I don't know if I should, will they be social? Like what am I going to do? How am I going to teach them at home? I don't know. First thing about teaching anything. Your
Techno
parents.
tutor.
Parents first. But yeah. What would you say to the people on the fence?
I would say you need to get techno tutor. I know a lot of people. I've met a lot of parents who want to do homeschooling and have no idea what to do because they don't know about socializing. They don't know about there's all these unknowns, and so people would rather just hand their kids off to the public education system. Like, techno tutor has the answer for all of your homeschooling needs, and it's very simple and it's easily comprehensible. And I've seen fourth graders learn college level vocabulary in less than 10 minutes. So it's like, you want to go through the difficult route of not knowing what the heck you're doing, or the tried and proven method of using techno tutor a little bit every single day, and it covers everything that you would ever need for your children's education and even way beyond that.
How long do you use techno tutor for yourself per day?
I use techno tutor every single day. I
How,
know.
how long in one session?
Oh, how long?
Yeah.
So I tutor kids. I use, with my tutoring clients, anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes a day. For myself is anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour a day. And I don't think I've ever, I mean, there's been a handful of times I've spent more than an hour using it, but it's like, that's the exception. That's not the rule. It doesn't take a whole lot.
Yeah, a lot of people have asked me about that. It's like, I have to sit there for 8 hours. Like,
Heck no. No. That's why you said home education and not home school. You're not sitting at home on your computer for 6 hours. Not at all.
exactly. And there's a lot that can be unwrapped when it comes to that kind of stuff. There's a lot of questions, there's a lot of curious people out there, and I will put Jewell's and Grace's links in the comments below, my link below. Anybody in California, anywhere in California or in the Bakersfield area, reach out to them. Ask a question. That's all you have to do. If you're curious about something, ask questions. You're never going to find anything out if you don't ask the questions. Oh my, mind blown. Like, oh my gosh. But yeah, things come out of conversations. And conversations like we had here are what's needed in order to bring things up and talk about them, come face to face with, get past them, move forward. That's when we can make change, not just for ourselves, but for future generations. When we're long dead and gone, what are we leaving our kids, right?
Yep.
So, Jewell and Grace, wherever you are, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your insight, your stories. And Sonny, I think, is he sleeping now finally? Or
Oh, it's
On his
outside.
But yeah, thank you very much for all that. And for a lot of people, it's difficult to have these kind of conversations. It's not that difficult. You have the support. There are people out there who are like this, who want to speak, who are suppressing their voices because of fear of other people. Don't worry about it. We're here. Let's have a conversation. Reach out. That's all it takes. So, on that note, again, thanks to you two. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
Thank you, Rob.
Looking forward to seeing you both in Texas.
Yes, can't wait.
Sorry, all three of you in Texas. And yeah, everybody out there, reach out, have a conversation. Until next time, see you online. Peace.